Welcome to Cozy Discoveries, where decorating, DIY, and secondhand finds come together to create a beautiful home you'll love, one cozy project at a time. In today's video, I'm giving my porch and patio a festive 4th of July refresh using budget-friendly flips from the Goodwill Bins. From wreaths to thrifted treasures and a few simple styling tricks, I'll show you how I transform these spaces without breaking the bank. So let's begin with our first thrift flip. It is so budget friendly. It's from the Goodwill Bins. This wooden cutout orange star. All I need is a little bit of some craft paint from my stash, as well as a foam brush. And I'm going to start by putting some blue paint just right onto the item. What I want to do is turn this into red, white, and blue for some really budget-friendly 4th of July decor. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the blue paint, making sure that I get deep into those crevices inside of the stars. And I'm also going to make sure that I put that blue paint on the inside of that ring all the way around the circle. And then I'm going to set it aside to dry. Next, what I'm going to do is take my red paint and I'm going to go around and paint the outside of the circle as well. And I'm being careful to make sure that I also cover the outside edge of the circle as well as the inside edge of the circle as I make my way around. And using this angled foam brush really made it a lot easier to get inside those little nooks and crannies. And I got those foam brushes from the Dollar Tree. And a fast tip is, if you get them from the automotive section versus the craft section, they put 2 more pieces of the very same foam brush in the pack for $1.25. So now here is how it looks. Now this is 3 coats of paint of both the red as well as the blue. And I did 3 coats because I really thought it made it look so vibrant. And so what we want to do to make this very red, white, and blue, and these are also the shape of the Tennessee state flag, which is where I live, I am going to take some of this foam that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. It's the Silly Winks foam for 99 cents a sheet, and it's only taking 2 sheets. And I am going to attach it to the back side of my item so that the bright white shows through. And the other benefit about this foam is that I have windows on my doors, and so it provides a lot of cushioning against scratching on the windows. So now I'm just figuring out where I want it to be, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that in place. I happen to be using beacon glue that I purchased from the Dollar Tree, but really any glue should be able to hold this foam. It's so light in place. And I'm just lifting it up to make sure that I am attaching it around all of the cutouts of the stars and of the circle. Now that the first one is in place, I'm just figuring out how much I want to overlap the 2 pieces of foam together, and I'm going to glue them together, and then I'm going to lift up the edge and apply the same process of gluing it all down. What I want to do is take my scissors and I'm going to cut around the edge of the foam, cutting off the excess, and I'm going to use the excess that I am trimming to fill in those other slots and openings that are on this circle. As you can see, the pieces fit together so nice and easily. I'm going to glue that in place all around, and then we'll be ready for the next step. I am back to my scissors and I am trimming off the excess with them, and I'm using the edge of the circle as my guide to trim. And once I've got that trimmed, I'm just going to really make sure that I have glued all the way to the edges all the way around the circle so that it is nice and secure. Next, we've got to figure out how are we going to hang this up. And you know what? I had hauled this really awesome 4th of July themed apron from the Goodwill Bins this last time. I will put a link to that amazing haul at the end of the video. And so what I want to use are the straps for the hanger. And I want to use the part that goes over in the neck to hang up the item. And I'm just going in and I'm taking my scissors and I'm cutting right to the edge of those pieces. And we're going to attach them to the circle with a staple gun. So the first thing I needed to do was decide where I was going to put the straps. And so once I found where I wanted to hook them, I basically just used my fingers to push back the foam and hook them both two edges just over the edge of the circle. And now that I've got them there, I am going to decide how long these straps need to be. So I am pulling them and adjusting the length of the strap as I go. And now I'm just lifting up the edge of that foam and I'm double checking the best way to attach them. And I started by crisscrossing and then decided, you know what, it laid flatter if I did not crisscross. So now all I'm doing is taking my staple gun and I am putting 2 staples in to hold them in place, and then I'm adding 2 more to make sure that it is secure. And I added 1 staple onto the foam just for good measure, and I am retaking my glue and I am tacking that where I lifted it up down again. And once it dries, we'll be ready to hang it up. And Cozy Crew, if you were with me, you saw me haul this brand new canvas bag also from the Goodwill Bins, and this was definitely, you know, maybe like $1, and it says that it was $12 in price. And what I originally thought was that I was going to use some of that material on the wreath, but it turned out that I didn't need it. So I thought this would make such an awesome throw pillow, right? So I got out one of my pillow forms and I just stuffed it and tucked it right into the bag. And oh my gosh, look at that. It's already taking shape. Now all I needed to do was close up the bottom of the bag, and because I didn't want to make it permanent, I thought, you know what, I could just tie those handles together, and what better thing than to go back to the apron and cut off some more of those ties and use those to tie up the bottom of the bag. I thought it looked so cute, I went on and I've repeated the same thing for the second handle. So all that was left to do was just snip off the edges and trim them into a similar size, and we'll be ready to style this up in just a minute. So I went out to my front porch, and this is what my door currently looks like. And I've got this really fun hello wreath that I got from Hobby Lobby. And what I thought I would do was move it onto this side wall. Put that right onto that wall because I still want to greet people with a hello. And I was ready to add my wreath to the front door. And this is how it looks so far. I brought a chair over and we're going to add our pillow right into place. I started with the handles up and then I decided, you know what, I think it looks best if I just flip it upside down, which now became its right side up, and that way those sweet little plaid ties could stick out on the bottom. Oh, I love it. Now on to the next thing. So I noticed that little corner seemed like it needed something, so I brought a potted plant in and put it there. But then I thought, you know what, and that needs to go on the other side of the door, and so I brought in a little table, one of my Facebook Marketplace free finds. Yes, And now I'm going to style it up. So I started with a tall candlestick, and then I brought in a mercury glass candle holder from my stash, and I filled it with some flowers that I got at the Goodwill Bins. And then I thought I'd add this sweet little birdhouse that also tied those same colors in, also hauled from the bins. But as I looked at it, it looked like it needed a little bit more life there, so I went to go get that wreath I just took off the door in the back patio and put it down to add some greenery. And then I decided I would put the lavender that I just hauled in the center of those flowers to act like fireworks that were spraying out. And I loved the height of that too. And so then I moved the birdhouse onto the top of the candle holder. So there I had it, red, white, and blue, all on that table as well. And I love the plant on the other side of the door. And so let's take a closer look at how this all turned out. I am so happy with it. It is definitely festive and screaming patriotic. But there's one more area that needs to be decorated, and boy, do I have a big surprise for that area, and that is the banister that faces the front part of our home. So last year, I bought one big swooping banner from Hobby Lobby on sale, and then I found an amazing one at the Goodwill Bins too. And I bought a third one this year so that I could have them going across the whole part of the front of the banister. And so what I needed to do was to attach the grommets onto the banister, and I started by doing that with some jute twine. But it was sagging, and so I had to add some zip ties to it to make sure that it held up in place. And I am just in love with how that turned out. What do you think? So let's go on to the back porch and add a little bit of some 4th of July magic there. And I think one of the most easiest and cost-effective ways to add a little punch to any door is by adding a wreath. So I'm going to go ahead and take off that greenery that I had before, and in its place I am going to add a 4th of July wreath that I made last year for next to nothing. And so I got the supplies from Hobby Lobby, and what I really loved is for the fireworks, I used some of these little swirls that I got at Christmas time at 90% off at their store, and I think they look so cute along with the bows. And now it's a perfect time to update the center of that frame on my other wall on the porch, the back porch, and I've added another one of these sweet little wreaths right to the middle of it. And I just hung it by putting a red, white, and blue ribbon onto the frame. And now let's go on inside and add a couple of finishing touches to bring that patriotic spirit indoors. And I'm starting with this sweet tray that we made. And if you missed that, I'll put a link to that video in the description. And I'm starting by just taking off some of that spring/Easter decor, and I'm bringing in some of these old books that I got from the Goodwill Bins in the colors of red and blue, and I'm stacking them on top of each other. And then I'm going to my stash and I am grabbing this Liberty Star as well as this patriotic bicycle to add to this display to finish it off for the center of my dining table. I think it is so sweet the way it turned out. What do you think? And I've got one more place that I want to add a little bit of 4th of July decor, and it is to my hutch. And so I am removing a bowl, And in its place, I'm putting a blue hymnal and an old writing book from the early 1900s, both purchased at the Goodwill Bins. And I'm topping it off with a little truck and with a little lab on the back of it. And because I removed a bowl, what I'm doing is I'm going to replace that in the hutch. And I'm going to use one of the bowls as a riser, and I'm going to raise up a sweet bird that I have. Oh, I love that sweet little bird, how it looks too. So thank you so much for joining me for this little patriotic makeover. I hope it gave you a few cozy ideas of your own. And here on Cozy Discoveries, I'm all about creating a meaningful home on a budget using DIY, decorating, crafting, cooking, and gardening to make everyday life just a little bit more beautiful. I'll see you next time right here on Cozy Discoveries, where the magic is in the making.